Only in America. The life and legacy of Don King. Don King has promoted some of the most prominent names in boxing, including Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Larry Holmes, Tomas Adamek, Roberto Duran, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Chris Bird, John Ruiz, Julio Cesar Chavez, Ricardo Mayorga, Andrew Galota, Bernard Hopkins, Felix Trinidad, Roy Jones Jr., Azuma Nelson, Gerald McClellan, Marco Antonio Barrera, Salvador Sanchez, Wilfred Benitez. Part 1. The Hustler of Cleveland. The documentary delves into Don King's early life in Cleveland, Ohio. Archival photos and interviews with historians paint a picture of a sharp-minded young man with an ambition for more. He starts as a numbers runner, a courier for illegal lottery-style bets, quickly rising to become a leading racketeer. This segment explores his early legal troubles, including his involvement in 2 killings. One was ruled justifiable homicide, but the other, for which he was convicted of manslaughter, sent him to prison. We hear from experts on the nuances of his legal battles and how he received a pardon later in life. This part establishes the foundation of his hustle and his willingness to go to any length to succeed, a trait that would define his entire career. Part 2. The Birth of an Empire. Upon his release from prison, a chance encounter with boxing legend Muhammad Ali changes everything. King convinces Ali to fight an exhibition match to raise money for a hospital in Cleveland. The event is a success, and King has found his calling. We see how he uses his street smarts and audacious personality to break into the exclusive world of boxing promotion. The documentary highlights his first and most famous promotion, the Rumble in the Jungle, the 1974 heavyweight championship between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman in Zaire. We hear from figures who were there and see rare archival footage of King, then a newcomer to the sport, striking a deal with Zaire's dictator, Mobutu Sese Seko, to secure the $5 million purses for each fighter. This segment chronicles how King's flair for promotion and showmanship became a central part of the boxing spectacle, changing the sport forever. Part 3. The Golden Age of Boxing. This part of the documentary focuses on King's dominance throughout the 1970s and 80s. He promotes some of the most significant fights of the era, including the Thrilla in Manila, and fights featuring champions like Larry Holmes, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Mike Tyson. We explore his unique, and often controversial, business model where he would sign contracts that required fighters who challenged his champions to be promoted by him if they won. This guaranteed that no matter who emerged victorious, King would be the one to profit. The film uses interviews with journalists, former boxers, and boxing insiders to shed light on how King became the undisputed king of boxing promotion. Part 4. Accusations and Legal Battles. The documentary does not shy away from the darker side of Don King's legacy. We examine the numerous lawsuits and accusations of financial fraud from the very fighters he promoted. Mike Tyson's famous lawsuit against King for allegedly defrauding him of millions is a key focus. The film uses legal documents and testimonies to detail the allegations and the public perception that King was exploiting his fighters. We also delve into the multiple federal investigations and indictments for tax evasion and racketeering that King faced over the years, noting that he was never convicted. This segment presents a complex and troubling portrait of a man who built an empire on a foundation of questionable dealings. Part 5. Legacy and the Fading Spotlight. In the final act, the documentary reflects on Don King's lasting impact on the sport of boxing and his place in American culture. We see him in his later years, still active but with a diminishing presence in the sport he once ruled. We explore the paradox of his legacy, a man who broke racial barriers and became the first black person to dominate a major industry, yet is remembered by many as a swindler who damaged the careers of the very champions he promoted. The film concludes by asking whether Don King was a visionary showman who changed boxing for the better, or a ruthless opportunist who left a trail of ruined lives in his wake. Closing credits. The final scene shows a single, recent shot of Don King, his iconic hair still defiantly upright, as a single voiceover asks, was he the greatest promoter of all time, or was he a heavyweight villain? The screen fades to black as the credits roll, leaving the audience to ponder the man behind the myth.